Hi, we're out on our range today, and once again, no, you haven't won a prize. That's a scam. And today is our 2023 Halloween special. Now, before we go any farther, let me explain this. There's no way I'm going to hide it, so I'm going to have to explain it. Yeah, about a week ago, I broke my hip. Don't ask. Okay, what we're talking about today is dispatching a vampire. Now, there's many different sources and many different stories, and those sources certainly do not agree with each other. In fact, just this morning, Arthur told me that the latest vampire stuff is telling us that vampires sparkle in the moonlight. Never heard that until today. But what we're going to go with for today is that if a vampire is out in sunlight for too long, then he'll die. Or if you put a wooden stake through the vampire's heart, they'll die. And that's really what we want to talk about. Now, an important thing is, once you get the wooden stake through the vampire's heart, you have to bury him with that wooden stake still in his heart. If you pull it out, he'll come back to life. Another important thing is, if you put any kind of tip on the wooden stake, like a metal tip to make it go through easier, like the metal tip on this arrow, that somehow breaks the vampire magic and it won't really kill him. It has to be a wooden stake and only a wooden stake. Okay, well that brings up the question, what if you had a wooden arrow, not a fiberglass arrow, a wooden arrow, with no tip on it? Just the wood whittled down to a point. Would that act as a wooden stake and kill a vampire? I'm going to say yes. However, there's concerns about accuracy, and if you only had a sharpened wooden shaft, would it give you sufficient penetration? Well, let's see if we can put those things to the test. First, let's talk about accuracy. I've got a shoot and see target set up, and I have my bow and some arrows, and these arrows do have target tips on them. And I'll shoot this target from a distance of 20 yards, and let's see how likely it would be that I would hit a vampire's heart. So what this demonstration shows us is that if you're going to try to shoot a vampire in the heart with an arrow, you're going to have to be a much better archer than me or a lot closer. Now there's one other thing we need to take a look at. Now we have to discuss a little bit about the magic of killing a vampire. And to help me illustrate that, we're going to use the vampire meat target. Now the vampire meat target is leather couch skin, followed by pork steak pectorals, pork ribs, half of a beef heart, a bag of oranges to simulate lung tissue, more pork ribs on the back, 4 layers of t-shirt on the front, 4 layers on the back, and the whole thing followed by the new and improved high-tech fleece bullet stop. And this is my Ruger M77 caliber .338 Winchester Magnum, which is loaded with Remington green and yellow box .338 Winchester Magnum 225 grain pointed soft point. And I'll use this to shoot the vampire meat target from a distance of about 10 yards, and let's see what kind of damage I can do. Well, we've got our vampire meat target taken apart, and you have to remember that when I typically shoot a meat target, I'll shoot it 4 or 5 times. This was only one shot, and our ribs on the front of the target have a nice big hole in them. Now, our half of a beef heart, it's kind of hard to see where the hole is. It's a little more abstract, but when you get it together, yeah, there's your hole right there. And of course, we still have a pretty good hole in the ribs at the back of the target and pulverized our orange lung tissue. And would you believe that projectile was stopped by the 20th layer of fleece? Let's take a close-up look at that projectile. And there's our projectile. Remember, it was a pointed soft point, and that mushroomed out just about perfectly. So it looks like the .338 Win Mag performed very well against the vampire meat target. But here's the punchline. It's a gun, not a wooden stake. So even though it can make holes like this, it still won't kill the vampire. So let's try something that will. Now we have a new vampire meat target, and I have some arrows that are just wooden shafts whittled down to a wooden point. And in addition to our new and improved high-tech fleece bullet stop, we also have our high-tech cardboard arrow stop. And I'll shoot this vampire meat target from about 10 yards, and let's see how we do. Well, here's our vampire meat target, riddled with arrows, and the first thing we can see is that my accuracy at 10 yards is a whole lot better than it was at 20. But something else we can see is not all that much penetration. This arrow here on the top didn't hit anything except t-shirt, and still didn't really go in that far. Now, this arrow seemed to go in really well, but it missed the ribs. The only thing it penetrated was the t-shirt and an orange. So that one doesn't count. This one down here, it's just barely hanging in there. I mean, it penetrated a couple of inches. So these three are really going to tell us our story. So we'll use the high-tech measuring system of putting my thumb on it. Yes, these yellow jackets are annoying. We'll pull that out, and you can see that didn't go in enough to do anything. That didn't even reach the heart. This one, a little farther, but still. That one may have gone into the heart a little bit. And that brings up the question, okay, so if only a ½ inch of the arrow goes into the vampire heart, does that kill him or does it have to go clear through? You be the judge on that. And this one, about the same story. So I'm going to say, with 4 layers of t-shirt, you might have a little bit of effect, but what if he was wearing a typical Dracula outfit with several layers and a vest and a coat and so forth? You're probably out of luck. Now, perhaps if you had a compound bow that could propel these arrows a lot more powerfully, but with my 35-pound recurve bow, looks like we're not going to do that well. But that brings up the question, what if we did have some hunting tips on these arrows? Not that that would help us against vampires, but just out of curiosity, let's shoot this meat target from 10 yards with the same bow, but with hunting tips, see what kind of penetration we get. Well, I only have 3 of these arrows. One hit pretty well centered. One just hit the fleece bullet stop. This one on the top hit in pretty much the same place as just the wooden tip did, and you can see significantly more penetration, so that tells us something. But what I'll do is go back to 10 yards, and I'll try these 2 arrows again, see if I can get a little better hits. Now this arrow that went through closer to the top, that went above the heart. That doesn't tell us much. These 2 hit where they should have gone through the heart. Let's see how much they penetrated. Okay, that's not bad. That would have actually gone into the heart. Again, not by much. And because it's got a metal tip, at least according to the vampire folklore that I've read, that doesn't count. This one, again, that's not bad. So, because the folklore as I understand it requires a wooden projectile and nothing else, my thought that I come up with immediately would be, Since there are so many different sources, create a blog and write your own vampire story, and then you can use an arrow with a wooden or metal tip, and either one would work. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. Not specifically a Halloween story, but I think it fits pretty well with the holiday. And remember, I didn't write it, I'm just telling you a story that somebody else told. Let's take a look. Blackwater Hattie lived back in the swamp where the strange green reptiles crawl. Snakes hang thick from the cypress trees like sausage on a smokehouse wall. The swamp's alive with 1,000 eyes, and all of them watching you. Stay off the track of Hattie's shack in the back of the Black Bayou. Way up the road from Hattie's shack lies a sleepy little Okeechobee town. Tales of Swamp Witch Hattie lock you in when the sun goes down. Rumors of what she had done, rumors of what she would do, kept folks off the track of Hattie's shack in the back of the Black Bayou. One day brought the rains, and the rain stayed on, and the swamp water overflowed. Mosquitoes and the fever grabbed the town like a fist, and Dr. Jackson was the first to go. Some said the plague was brought by Hattie, and there was talk of a hanging too. But the talk got shackled by the howls and the cackles from the bowels of the Black Bayou. Early one morning between dark and dawn, when shadows filled the sky, there came an unseen caller on a town where hope had all run dry. In the square was found a big black round vat full of gurgling brew. Whispering sounds as the folks gathered round. Black and there ain't much pride in the trap inside a slowly sinking ship. They scooped up the liquid deep and green, and the whole town took a sip. The fever went away, and the very next day the skies again were blue. Let's thank old Hattie for saving our town. We'll fetch her from the Black Bayou. A party of 10 of the town's best men headed for Hattie's shack. It seemed Swamp Witch magic was useful and good, and we're gonna bring Hattie back. Well, they never found Hattie, and they never found the shack, and they never made a trip back in. Because a parchment note they found tacked to a stump read, "Don't come looking again."